Welcome back to our Revelation series here on Barefoot Bible. This is our 8th video in the weekly series, and this video covers Revelation 2, verses 6 through 9. So we're going to finish up Ephesus and begin our study on the Church of Smyrna. Please submit your questions about Revelation below the video in the comments section. Verses 6 and 7 conclude Jesus' letter to believers in Ephesus. Verse 6, "But this thou hast, that thou hatest the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate." A sect that may have been connected to Nicolaus, a proselyte of Antioch, Acts chapter 6, was probably responsible for promoting this group's deeds. The Nicolaitans tempted believers to participate in idolatry and the immoral aspects of its worship. This heretical group was mentioned in the writings of several church fathers, such as Irenaeus, Tertullian, and a couple others. Twice in the chapter, Jesus said he hated the deeds and the teachings of this group. Many Christians are convinced, it's just never right as a Christian to hate. But twice in this chapter, we hear about Jesus saying, "which I also hate." I encourage you to do a side study on Proverbs 6, verse 16 through 19 to learn about 7 things that God hates. You might be surprised. Some believers today choose to avoid taking a stand against evil, to avoid being accused of being hateful or judgmental. This is the first letter Jesus records to the churches, and he has a commendation for believers' hatred for this false group that was working against believers. Verse 7, he goes on, "He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God." So Jesus concludes each of his letters with a call. "He that hath an ear to hear, let him hear." And in Grant Osborne's book on Revelation, he comments, quote, "There is also a strong emphasis on responsibility of God's people to open their ears." It could be translated, "Let the one who's willing to hear listen," unquote. At the end of each of the 7 letters, Jesus gives a promise to, quote, "him that overcometh," unquote. And in this first letter, Jesus promised overcomers would eat of the tree of life. Genesis explained the tree of life was originally in the Garden of Eden, and since the fall of man, it's disappeared scripturally. In Revelation 22, John describes eternity and says he saw the tree of life in the midst of the paradise of God, Revelation 22:2. Let's go on to verse 8. "And unto the angel of the church of Smyrna write, These things saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive." Smyrna was a city about 35 miles north of Ephesus, a day's journey. It was Asia's second most wealthy city, located on a natural seaport, as it still is. Today, it is one of Turkey's largest cities, named Izmir, with a population of over 500,000 people. Paul began this church during the 3 years he spent in Ephesus, and at the time of when John wrote this letter, the worship of Caesar was the central focus of the city. Every street led from the harbor to this ornate Roman temple. You see the remains of it there, dedicated to Caesar worship. Verse 9, "I know thy works," Jesus says, "and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan." So believers in the church of Smyrna were under tribulation for their faith in Jesus. Using the same tactic used against Paul, Jews in Smyrna back in that day stirred up the Roman officials against Christians until Rome came and imprisoned the believers. And once imprisoned, of course, the government confiscated their possessions, which left them in poverty, of course. Jesus used a very poignant description of the Jewish persecutors. He knew the blasphemy of them as the synagogue of Satan. And in the next video, we'll explain that just a bit more. Please subscribe to Barefoot Bible. That helps promote our channel. And share a link of this video. Encourage your Facebook friends to also join. Next Thursday, the video will cover chapter 2, verse 10 through 17. So we'll finish up the Longsuffering Church in Smyrna and begin the next letter to the Leavened Church over in Pergamos. I hope you'll join us again next time, and continue our journey through the book of Revelation.